a whiskey over 46% and over a certain age will always throw a head of beads or bubbles. But we've never seen a young spirit do it before, and this one does it, which is why you're getting this big texture in the mouth. So now we have some whiskey. I'll do that. So just to bring you up to speed with what else has been going on at the distillery. Obviously Fraser joined us in March this year. Our ultimate output, if you like, is around 500,000 litres, but that's working round the clock, day and night, 3 shifts. So up until now, we've been gradually working up from 3-day weeks to 4-day weeks to 5-day weeks. We're currently on a 6-day week, doing 7 mashes. So we're looking at about 200,000 litres of alcohol this year, which is quite a lot. I mean, that's more than Kilhoney, as an example. And then next year, we're planning, all being well, to go up to about 350 to 400,000. So that'll be a double shift, 5-day week. Which will mean the team up there will be up to, what will you be?
It'll be 4 operators and 2 warehouses.
4 operators, yeah. And well, talking of warehouses, the warehouse is almost full already, which is great. It smells fantastic. There's mold on the walls already. All that fungus is coming out. But it does mean that we're going to have to build new ones by July next year. So we're planning to have about 5 new ones just above the site on the next level up. We really want as much as possible, if not everything, to be matured there.
2-story?
No, it'll be single. The land, because it goes up like that, and then it flattens a little bit, so we'll get on the flat part. We ran unpeated spirit this year until September, and then we moved back to peated, and we'll run peated now for another probably month. And then we'll go back to unpeated for 3 months. And then again, so we're switching over every 2 or 3 months, 3 to 6 months. We're still filling Woodford from Kentucky, Woodford American barrels. And from Spain, we have some excellent first fill Oloroso PX sherry casks. The only issue is, as the pound has gone, the price of buying these casks has obviously risen. So we're now, as of last week, 1 sherry hogshead, so this size, is costing me £800. 1 cask, empty. About 650. So it's a big difference. But you have to get everything right now, because otherwise in the future you can't look back. And in 8 years, 10 years time, if we didn't do what we should do now, it would be a waste of time. So that's the distillery. We're now going to have some Adelphi bottlings, some recent ones. These are all done in the last few weeks. The first one coming round is our blended malt called Glenborrow. So if you haven't had Glenborrow before, this is batch number 3. We started it last year, and it is a combination of malts from different distilleries in Scotland, which include Highland Park, Tamdhu, quite heavily sherried Glenrothes, and some peated Bunnahabhain. The first 2 batches there was quite a lot of peated Bunnahabhain. This one there's less, but there's more of the heavily sherried Glenrothes. So you get less smoke, more sherry on this one. It's reduced to 46%, as we tend to do with our multi-cask bottlings. And we got about, 1,200 bottles, I think, from the batch, give or take. Bunnahabhain, peated Bunnahabhain. So we always write a short tasting note on these multicast bottlings on the label, and we try to be a little bit serious, but also a little bit not so serious. And this all happened because the first batch, I think it was the first batch of Glenmorangie. Charlie McLean, who sadly isn't here this weekend, he's at another whiskey festival. Has anyone seen the film Angel's Share?
Yeah.
So Charlie, who obviously stars in it, they asked him to do a reenactment of the auction in the Balblair warehouse this weekend. So he had to unfortunately stay in Scotland for that. But he sends his best wishes. And we get to drink more anyway, so that's fine. But he, normally, Charlie and I will do the tasting notes, the selection, all the rest of it. And for the first batch of Glenmorangie, we were writing all the notes for various whiskies that morning, and then we had to go off to a meeting. And we hadn't quite finished doing the Glenmorangie, we'd just done the first, I think the nose or whatever. But I had to have the labels printed that day, otherwise it wouldn't have been ready to get out to whatever whiskey fair. So I asked my colleagues in the office if they would finish off the tasting note and then send it to the printers. And that was fine. And then, of course, 2 weeks later, the labels arrived, we put them on the bottles, and off they go. And that was the first time that I saw the finished tasting note. I can't remember how it started, but you might be able to work out where Charlie and I finished. And it was something like chocolate, orange, and something. Full stop. Willy Wonka's Forest Walk. Strawberry shoelaces and chocolate earth and all this stuff. Anyway, so from that moment on, we said, well, we'll have to make it a little bit stupid each time. So this one, again, citrus zest with rum and raisin fudge from Mrs. Miggins's Fudge Emporium. I don't know who Mrs. Miggins is, anyway. Squares of after-dinner chocolates with the slightest wisp of smoke from the log fire. So it's definitely a lot of sherry influence in this, but you're also getting that nice fruitiness coming through, and just a little bit of smoke from the Bunnahabhain. The Glenrothes that went into this was the end, sadly, the end of what was a great run of single casks that we had bought from 2007. Heavily sherry Glenrothes. We started bottling them at 6 years old, then 7, 8, and then the last one was 9 years old. And they were all high strength, about 66, 67% alcohol. And they all looked like Coca-Cola. They were fantastic. So there was at least half a cask of one of those went into this. But it's a tasty wee drum. And it also shows that, everyone talks about, oh, I'm only drinking single malt and all the rest of it. Blended malt is absolutely fine. Just because it's not from one distillery doesn't mean it's not as good as single malt. It's still malt. It's still been through the same procedure. And you can actually have a lot of fun trying to come up with an interesting combination when you do the blend. Is everyone okay? Any questions?
Easy customers. I like them.
How large is such a batch you will produce from such a blended malt?
This one?
Yes.
This was about 1,200, I think. Oh no, less. 1,014 bottles.
Okay.
So we can go up to about 1,500 for a batch. It might sound very scientific. There's a good reason. Is blending tank is 1,000 bulk liters. So that's as high, as far as you can go. Interestingly enough, this is for the Adelphi-Verkostung. This will be the first time that we've gone beyond that. So what we have to do is get more than one tank, and we have an aeration system to circulate between tanks. Because otherwise, when you come to bottle one of the tanks, it may be different from the other ones. So you have to make sure it's all mixed up. The other interesting thing actually about this is, when you start to add water to whiskey, it causes a reaction. As whiskey is maturing in oak, it is actually becoming hydrophobic, so it's going to be reactive to water when you take it out of the cask. So what it tends to do is it makes the whiskey go cloudy, and if you reduce with too much water, you then have to filter it to clear it again, and that's called chill filtration, that process. So ideally, you don't go below 46. At that strength, you can keep it clear or clear enough. But when you've got something as young as this, the Ardnamurchan, as soon as the water touches it, it goes quite cloudy. So what we've actually done with this is we took all the octaves, probably early September, end of August, I think.
End August, yeah.
Yeah, and we married them into 3 sherry butts, so the big 500-litre casks, and then we added a little bit of water into the casks. So that way, that marriage for the last 2-3 months has allowed it to clarify again, so it doesn't then have that reaction when we bottle it. And that's quite a common way of doing it. A lot of blenders will sort of preempt the issue. There wasn't much room in the cask.
No.
How long does it take for you to make such a composition of malt that you have the end product, such a blend? How long is the choice you're making in order that you're having this kind of product?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends. So I've only recently started doing a lot of blending, and over the years, we've always been doing single cask selection, looking at each one individually, scoring it on its own individual merit. And the last probably 2 years, I've become a lot more involved in not only blending Scotch whiskies, but also fusion. So doing Japanese, Scotch, other things, which is also part of our business. And it's not always that easy, especially when you've got very different flavour profiles. What I would say about the Glenvoraghdale is that the malts that have gone into it all belonged to the same company originally. So Tamdhu, Glenrothes, Highland Park, and Bunnahabhain were all part of Edrington, who also owns Macallan, when this was first made, so 8-9 years ago. And whether by luck or by judgment on their behalf, for having those distilleries, it actually goes together quite well. The peat from Bunnahabhain goes well with the sherry from Glenrothes, and the sort of lighter fruitiness and peat from Highland Park as well. And Tamdhu's a good kind of heavy, reasonably heavy spirit. So I didn't really have an issue with that one. Some of the fusions I'm still trying to get, and it's not easy. Japanese and Scotch, we were very lucky quite quickly. We found a good combination. Just between us and these 4 walls, in 2 weeks' time we will be releasing the first Indian Scotch fusion, and that's a combination of Amrut and Glenelgin. Now that took a little bit longer because the Amrut is very spicy, and I wanted to keep that in the whiskey to show that the Indian was there, but I had to make sure that the Scotch could not necessarily fight with that, but certainly still be shown, to be seen. And we used some Glenelgin, which is very, very fruity, to combine with that. The next one I'm working on at the moment is a Swedish one, and the Swedish malt that we're using is exceptional, but it's very different. It's really quite peaty, quite smoky, and a different smoke from Islay or from Scotch whisky. And I'm struggling. I'm really quite struggling. I've tried the opposite end of the spectrum. I've tried heavy sherry, and it doesn't work. I've tried peated Scotch, doesn't work. So I'm now waiting for a few casks to come in which are quite fruity and not smoky or sherry, and I'm just going to see if that will work. But I may have to say, can't do it. But it's really exciting. Making a blend is great fun. And the other one, I don't know if you've tried or get a chance to, upstairs on the Rolf Kasper stand, there are importers here in Germany, and for weeks now, in the lead up to the aquavitae fair, they've been pestering me for an exclusive cask just for this weekend, and we don't have enough stock. So I said, look, if you really need something exclusive, I'll do a blend. So they said, yeah, do a blend. So we took the base of our normal blend, the Adelphi Private Stock, which we had matured in, or finished in sherry for 2.5 years, I think. And then I added bits and pieces from casks we had in the warehouse. So you've got, funny enough, some 22-year-old Auchentoshan, or 24-year-old Auchentoshan, which Fraser made. In 1992.
Easy update.
Some 1990 Clyde Leash and some 12-year-old Vermont. And go and try it, it's great. It's fruity, smoky, easy drinking. So when it works, it's really good fun. So yeah.